Hi, everyone. Today we will be beginning our next unit, sequences and series. Sequences series have a whole lot of use in mathematics, especially higher mathematics. So today we're going to figure out what is a sequence, how do we find an equation for a sequence, and some vocabulary related sequences. So a sequence is a set of terms separated by commas. So it's just a list of numbers or entries separated by commas. So the Fibonacci sequence, which you may be familiar with, is 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21. It keeps going on. Now, if I ask you term 1, t of 1 equals 1. T of 2, the second term is 1. I go look at t of 4, the fourth term is 3. Okay, so the input is the term number, and the output is what's the actual term, what's the actual number in the sequence. So to find the ninth term in this sequence, okay, the way this sequence works is I add the two previous numbers to get the next number. So 13 plus 21 would be 34, and that's the next term. And then I could do 21 plus 34 and get the following term. So the way to write this equation, and we're going to learn that this can only be written with the recursive equation, is to get a number, we have to add two numbers, the two terms before it, and then the term before it. So, for example, to get the ninth term, we'd have to add the 9 minus 2, the seventh term, and the eighth term. And we'd also have to give a starting point. And we'll get to recursive formula momentarily. So there's two types of formulas when you're writing a sequence. You can either write an explicit formula, which is very similar to the formulas we've written in the functions we've dealt with, or a recursive formula, which kind of gives a step-by-step directions on how to get to the next term, but then you need the previous term or a certain amount of previous terms. So let's look at an example. We're going to write two different formulas for the sequence where it's 250, 325, 400, 475, 550. So what I look at here is I see that they're all going up by a constant. So it looks pretty linear. We're going to have a name for this. It's going to be called an arithmetic sequence. So now I can write t of n instead of y equals. So t of n, the sequence equals 175 plus 75n. Or if I put 1 in here, it'll get me term 1. So I put a 1 in here, it will get me 250. Put a 2 in here, I multiply and add, it'll get me 325. Or we're going to learn this notation. This is going to be called first term notation, where I write the first term, and then instead of writing n, I'm going to write n minus 1. So explicit is just the equation that finds me each term. I can put whatever number I want in for n, and I can find that term. Now the recursive formula, I need to give it directions. So in order to get to the next step, so in order to get to t of n, I need the step before that. I need to know the term before that, and I need to know what I'm doing every time. So the plus 75 is what I'm doing every time to the previous term to get to the next term. And I also need a starting point. So I could say t of 1 equals 250 or t of 2 equals 325. I need to tell the person some information so that they can move forward and move backward from that point. Now, an arithmetic sequence is simply a linear sequence, a sequence where there's a common difference. We're going up by the same amount each time in addition or subtraction. So here we're adding 8 each time. If we're doing something else, we'll have another name for the sequence, but all we know right now is it's not arithmetic. Okay, so like I said, here's the formulas. Okay, explicit looks very linear, kind of looks like mx plus b. Okay, d is the change, d is like the slope, or how much we go up by each time, and a sub 1 is the first term. And then for recursive, we need a term, and we need to know what the step is. So the last example, we'll look at this arithmetic sequence. It's going up by 8 each time, so 8 is my change. 8 is my d value. And I like the first term. is -3. N minus 1 tells me it's my first term, so -3 plus my change times n minus 1. Or I could write it in a recursive form where I say to get from a term to the next term, we add 8, and the first term is -3. So practice both forms, and we're going to learn more sequences in the future.